chapter 4, which Sneha Mataji kindly started yesterday, and we'll be discussing from verse 2. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yenan Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So again, thank you for joining the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. We are discussing Canto 1, the creation. We'll begin with chapter 4. Sneha Mataji spoke very nicely on the first verse of chapter 4 yesterday at the Hare Krishna temple in Burbank. And we'll start with the text 2. But first, let's recap a little bit from the first 3 chapters, especially the 3rd chapter, which we left off before Karthik. And then we resumed the discussion just recently. So as we know, we heard a couple of days ago, that Srila Prabhupada put everything in the first 3 cantos. And he put everything in the first canto. And then he put everything in the first 3 chapters. And then he put the entire philosophy in the first chapter. And actually, the entire philosophy in the first canto, first chapter, first verse. Imagine the compassion of Srila Prabhupada, that he has given everything in just the first canto, first chapter, first verse. So the first 3 chapters of this canto, the first canto is very deep because they actually give us the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. First of all, starts with the description of the absolute truth. Lord Shri Krishna himself, Satyam Paramadhimahi, and then describes the various levels of realizing the absolute truth, the Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdayate. Then clarifying the purpose of performing our prescribed work. We all should know what are our prescribed duties. What duties generally we think are actually not our prescribed duties. Our prescribed duties must be according to the scriptures and according to our guna and karma. Chatur varnam maya shishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. Krishna says that in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So the first canto, it's the 2nd chapter, it says, Savai pum samparo dharmo yatho bhakti adhokshaje ahaitu ki apratihata yatma suprasidhati. And then dharmasvanusya pumsham vishvakshena kathasuyah notpadya yadiratim shram evahi kevalam. That means whatever work we are doing according to our prescribed duties, that must provoke the attraction to hear the message of Lord Shri Krishna. And then it summarizes the stages through which bhakti progresses. And we are very fortunate to have Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini give us just these 14 steps in which we can actually see the Lord. Just imagine, you take 14 steps holding the hand of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can see the Lord face to face. And we can not only see him, directly experience him. Hari Anubhava Śaunaka. The first 3 chapters, of course, this is the 3rd chapter as we finished, describes the Lord's incarnations and authoritatively and powerfully presents Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the 3rd chapter proves also that Krishna is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. So if you just want to, understand the first 3 chapters, understand it very thoroughly and implement first 3 chapters in our life will be successful. And then from now on, chapter 4 to 7 will describe how the Srimad Bhagavatam came to be recorded. So how Sudha Goswami is narrating, Śaunaka Rishi is very, very excited. So let's begin with 1.4.2. Śaunaka uvacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatambara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Shukaha. Śaunaka uvacha Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatambara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Shukaha. Word to word. Śaunaka, Śaunaka, Uvacha said, Suta, Suta, O Suta Goswami, Mahabhaga, the most fortunate, Vada, please speak na unto us, Vadatam, of those who can speak, Vara, respected, Katham, message, Bhagavatam, of the Bhagavatam, Punyam, pious, Yat, which, Aha, said, Bhagavan, greatly powerful, Shukaha, Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Śaunaka said, O Sudha Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken by the great and powerful sage Sukadeva Goswami. Purport. So the Goswami is twice addressed herein by Śaunaka Goswami, out of great joy because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of Bhagavatam uttered by Sukadeva Goswami. They were not interested in hearing it from a bogus person who would interpret in his own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Such impersonalists twist some meanings out of Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views, and the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to misexplain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastimes. Neither of these reciters are bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Sukadeva Goswami, and only those who are prepared to hear Sukadeva Goswami and his representative are bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada doesn't mince words here. Here, Śaunaka Rishi is, yesterday we were reciting a bhajan which Lord Shiva speaks to Mother Parvati in Urdhvamanya Tantra. And this bhajan is glorifying Srimati Radharani. It's a very wonderful bhajan. But while we were reciting, I was thinking, I've been reciting this bhajan for many, many years. But am I actually understanding even one little bit of what this bhajan means? So the recitation is there, but then the meditation also has to be there. And from the meditation will come the realization. So when we see here Śaunaka Rishi is so excited. Now just think, Sudha Goswami has come, and why are these sages assembled in Naimisharanya? They are assembled to perform a 1,000-year-long sacrifice for people of Brisbane, for the people of Kali Yuga, that because they know Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Upadruta. We just heard a couple of days ago that this is the status of the mentality of the people of Kali Yuga, of all of us. And so these sages who are very compassionate, they are performing a long sacrifice for our benefit. And the result is that Sudha Goswami comes, and then he starts narrating Srimad Bhagavatam. Questions are being asked, 6 questions being asked, and the 6 questions are being answered, including all the topics related to Krishna. So Bhagavatam must technically end here, but no. Because these devotees who are hearing Krishna Katha are so excited. So for us also, we need to become children again and be excited to hear this Krishna Katha. Otherwise, you will just read this, okay, Suta Suta Mahabhaga, Vadano Vadatambara. No, we have to really understand how excited is Śaunaka Rishi, and who is Śaunaka Rishi and who is Suta Goswami. So the first verse of this chapter describes why is Śaunaka Rishi asking the question. Three qualities are given. Prabhupada says in the purport that there are so many sages gathered, and Śaunaka Rishi is described as, his qualification is given as Kulapati. Kulapati also means a sage who is a Brahmana who is actually maintaining 10,000 sages. So in the previous ages, when a big sage will have an ashram, he will maintain many other sages. Young, middle-aged, old, he'll maintain them. And Śaunaka Rishi is called Kulapati because he is maintaining 10,000 sages. So his qualifications are given. And what are these qualifications? In the first verse, that he is, Prabhupada says, that he is the leader of the house. He is the leader of the house. And then second is, he is an elderly man. He is an elderly man. And of course, the third and the most important one is, he is vastly learned. And as we know, for us in Bhakti, one more addition is there. If we are learned, but we are not humble and we are not sincere, then even being learned doesn't count much. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini. Krishna says in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that someone who has got the Vidya, someone who's learned, someone who's got the knowledge, must also have a Vinaya. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. So he should be Sampanna with Vidya and Vinaya. Otherwise, Vidya will bring pride. I can recite so many verses. Yeah. And yesterday we heard Sneha Mataji, saying that one of Prabhupada's disciples, he could recite all 700 verses. But then because of his pride, he fell away. So there are, of course, 4 ways Shastra describes of being Vriddha. Vriddha means elderly. So one is, of course, by the age. The second one is by initiation. So if someone is initiated before us, then he is senior to us. The third one is by our education or by knowledge, how much more learned we are. We see there are so many younger devotees who are very learned. So even though if we are old in age according to the material age in this lifetime, but because they are more learned, even in this life they might be younger to us, but they are elderly to us. And the fourth one is the devotion to the Lord, the sincerity to serve. So these are the 4 qualifications which makes one elderly, and elderly has to be respected. So here Śaunaka Rishi in the second verse, we can see that's very excited. And whenever this emotions there, these words are repeated twice. Even Uttara when she is running, trying to save herself, especially the child in the womb from the Brahmastra, she comes to Krishna, and she also addresses in a very emotive manner. So many times we see that these words are repeated. Suta Suta. Suta Suta means, O Suta Goswami, Mahabhaga, the most fortunate. And why is Suta Goswami very fortunate? Suta Goswami is very fortunate because in the first canto, in the 18th chapter, it describes the qualification of Suta Goswami. So Suta Goswami, Śaunaka Rishi is actually Brahmana. So he is higher in caste than Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami, as we know from the word Suta, Suta means he is the son of a mixed class parents. He is not a pure breed. He is not a pure Brahmana, but he is a Suta. So Suta is like Vidura. Vidura was a Suta Putra. So Suta Goswami in the caste hierarchy, in the traditional caste hierarchy, he is lower than Śaunaka Rishi. But because he has taken association of great rishis and great sages, especially he has heard with rapt attention the Bhagavatam narrated by Sukadeva Goswami. So Sut Goswami has got a higher position than Śaunaka Rishi. So Śaunaka Rishi is asking questions and Suta Goswami is answering these questions. And then in this verse, in this purport, Prabhupada tells us that there are two types of people we have to avoid hearing from. One is the professional reciters, and the second one is impersonalist reciters. Professional reciters, of course, we know, not much comes out of that. But Prabhupada was very much against us hearing from a Mayavadi or an impersonalist reciter, because they are very good in speaking, but the ultimate destination is worse than hellish condition. So Prabhupada used to say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually said, Mayavadi Bhashya Sune Hai Sarvanasya. So if you are hearing Mayavadi Bhashya, you can guarantee Sarvanasya. All calamity or all disturbance or all difficulties or all misdirections will happen if we hear Mayavadi Bhashya. 143, the third verse. Kasmin yuge pravritteyam sthane vakena hetuna kutah sanchoditah Krishna kritavan samhitam munihi. Does anyone want to recite this verse, please? Verse number 3.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Kasmin yuge parvatyayam thane vakena hetuna kutaha sanchodita Krishna kartavana samhitam munihi.
Thank you, Prabhu. What word Kashmin, in which yuge period pravritta was begun, iyam this, sthane in the place of, va or kena on what, hetuna ground, kutah wherefrom, sanchodita inspired by, Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, Kritavan compiled Samhitam Vedic literature, Munihi the learned. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: in what period and at what place was this first begun, and why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Purport: because Srimad Bhagavatam is the special contribution of Srila Vyasadeva, there are so many inquiries by the learned Śaunaka Muni. It is known to them that Srila Vyasadeva had already explained the text of the Vedas in various ways up to the Mahabharata for the understanding of less intelligent women, Shudras, and fallen members of the family of twice born men. Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all of them because it has nothing to do with anything mundane. So the inquiries are very intelligent and relevant. Very short purport, but it has got deep meaning because Prabhupada describes here that Bhagavatam is the special contribution of Srila Vyasadeva. And we heard before that Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasadeva in his maturity of meditation. And now Śaunaka Rishi will start with 4 questions first, and then of course then the questions will keep on increasing, because he Suta Goswami will refer to one conversation, and from there another conversation will happen, and then again conversation after conversation, questions and answers will keep coming. And they knew that Vyasadeva had already compiled so many literatures, but then they wanted to know how did Srimad Bhagavatam come into being. And also Prabhupada says that Bhagavatam is transcendental to all of them because it has nothing to do with anything mundane, nothing material. From the first from the first 3 verses, we know that Bhagavatam has got nothing to do with anything mundane. Dharma projita kaitava parmo nirmat saranam satam. That Bhagavatam has got nothing to do with anything material, anything mundane. And that's why Prabhupada says, any inquiry if we make which is related to Krishna, his devotees, his activities, his pastimes, his abode, and these inquiries are very intelligent and relevant. Any question or comments on this verse or purport? Okay, so we move on to the...
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
In the purport, it says, and fallen members of the family of the twice born man. What does it mean, Prabhu?
Dvij Bandhus. So Dvij Bandhus means Shastra describes how to start the verse. Janmana jayate shudro. Janmana jayate shudro sanskarat bhavet dvija ved patha bhavet vipra brahma janati te brahmana. So 4 types of people are described. So first of all, in Kali Yuga, Janmana Jayate Shudra. So all of us are by birth Shudra, unless the parents have done the proper Garbhadan Samskara. And for most of the people in Kali Yuga, the Garbhadan Samskara are not done, so they are born Shudra. So Janmana Jayate Shudra. Then once you take the Samskara, you become, you take the Yagyopavita in the Brahmana family, then you become a Dvija. Dvija means Dvijabandhu. You are actually not a Brahmana. You are a Dvijabandhu. That means someone who's who can get qualified to become a Brahmana, but is still not Brahmana. He's a Dvijabandhu. Dvija generally means secondary. There's a Dvija generally means a Brahman, but also it can mean secondary, because you are the second, twice born. You are born second time. So you are born once as a Shudra, but when you take the Samskara, then you are twice born as a Dvija. So twice born means you are twice born as a Brahmana, but you are still not qualified as a Brahmana, because you have not come to the level of knowing the Brahma. So I know it's a bit tricky, because even there are different classifications. We all know that there is a Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahmana, but even within Brahmana there are 4 types. Everyone is born a Shudra, then with Sanskara, with the ritual, with the ceremony, you become a Dvija, and then once you start studying the scriptures, you become a Vipra. There's another class called Vipra, and then once after studying the scriptures, after taking initiation, once you know Brahma, that means the Lord, then you become a Brahmana. So this is the twice born. Does it make sense, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Can you give us one example, one such person as an example?
Dvija Bandhu. Who can be Dvij Bandhu in scriptures? Who is Dvij Bandhu? Let me think. Maybe I don't know. I can't confirm it. But the person, the young boy who cursed Parikshit Maharaj, Shringi. But I need to go through the Bhagavatam properly again to see if he is described as the Dvij Bandhu, because someone who's studied the scriptures and someone who knows the Brahman, they won't curse like that. But let me find something out, Mataji, for you.
Okay,
If
Prabhu.
there's an
Thank you,
example.
Prabhu.
So basically, someone who has just gone through the ritual of being a Brahmana, but he's not studied the scriptures and doesn't realize the Brahma. He's a Dvijabandhu. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu.
In modern terms, we can say that the caste Brahmanas who give just the ritual initiation to their children, especially the boys, and they start wearing the Yagyopavit, they can be called Dvijabandhus.
Okay. Got it, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
No problem. So text number 4. Text number 4, translation. His Vyasadeva's son was a great devotee and equibalanced monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was transcendental to mundane activities, but being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. So this is the description of Sukadeva Goswami now. We are starting. A very short purport, but Prabhupada gives very much depth into this purport. Srila Sukadev does someone want to read the purport, please? Unmute yourself and read the purport.
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Srila Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and thus he remained always alert, not to be trapped by the illusory energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, this alertness is very lucidly explained. The liberated soul and the conditioned soul have different engagements. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like a dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine the actual engagements of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. A conditioned soul and a liberated soul may apparently be on the same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in sense enjoyment or in self-realization. The conditioned soul is absorbed in matter, whereas the liberated soul is completely indifferent to matter. This indifference is explained as follows. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So the verse says that Sukadeva Goswami was a monist before. So we'll slowly hear, because I can't reveal the climax now, slowly hear how Sukadeva Goswami, when he was in the womb of his mother, he didn't want to come out of the womb. So he was there in the womb for 16 years and he didn't want to come out. And then ultimately Vyasadeva had to call Krishna to assure him that even when he comes out, he will not be affected by the material energy. But when he appeared, he was not a pure devotee as we see him now, or as we hear of him as now. He was a monist. Monist means he was sort of, we can't say he was an impersonalist, but he was on the border. He had not really heard so much about Krishna's glories and Krishna's activities. So he even though he was a transcendentalist, but he was not a pure devotee. And we'll come to that a bit later on. So the verse says, he was an equibalanced monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism. And of course, at the same time, he was transcendental to mundane activities. So he had nothing to do with any mundane activities. And being unexposed, he appeared like an ignorant person. So we see if someone who is not exposed to the, any section of society or any, if when we come from one country to another country, we are not exposed to that, the culture, the rules, regulations, the behavior of that country. And then, we are almost like ignorant. So Sukadeva Goswami, because he was not exposed, he was completely, sheltered in his mother's womb. And then as he came out, he just left the house. He had no connection with, no childhood, no boyhood, no adulthood, nothing at all. But Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and he was always alert not to be trapped by the illusory energy. Very important. When we come out, when a jiva, the problem is that jiva in the original condition is a pure spirit soul. But the moment it comes in contact with the material energy, especially the mode of passion and ignorance, then we become trapped by the illusory energy. And Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita that this alertness is very lucidly explained. Many places in Bhagavad Gita is explained that a pure devotee or a liberated soul has got nothing to do with the material world. He's always thinking of how to progress in the spiritual life. And for us, like it is a dream. But when we hear of the pure devotees from the scriptures, that might be a dream for us. But actually, if we open our eyes and ears and hearts and see that there are devotees around us who are also at a very higher level and are also progressing more and more and going deeper in their Krishna consciousness, we should take example of them. So we'll continue with this verse tomorrow again, explaining a little bit more about Sukadeva Goswami. And difference between the conditioning and pure devotion. And we'll continue from there tomorrow, Krishna willing. Any questions or comments or reflections? Please unmute yourself. It's a working day.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you elaborate a bit more on this word monism and monist? I didn't
Yes.
quite understand. Yeah.
So can I do it tomorrow, because it's a bit of explanation, but tomorrow we'll start with that explanation.
Okay,
Why
Prabhuji.
Sukadeva Goswami was called a monist.
Yeah.
It is only after he heard the verse of Krishna giving this mercy to Putana, when he heard this verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakala Kuta, that when he heard that verse, that how Krishna, even when someone is approaching Krishna to kill Krishna, he is giving that personality the higher destination of being a mother in the spiritual world. And then he was completely enamored by Krishna's mercy and Krishna's compassion, and then he became a pure devotee. He already had the qualifications. Only thing is, he just wanted this little spark to become a pure devotee. But we'll discuss that again tomorrow a little bit in detail, Mataji. Is that okay?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We'll, Krishna willing, see you tomorrow morning, 6:30, and have a wonderful Krishna conscious devotional day. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai. His grace of
Aki Rai Prabhu Das ki jai.
Right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.